finding them was shocking because I had no memory of them. It was like, oh my goodness, look at these, aren't these interesting? You know, it was like this tremendous treasure trove. And I didn't even connect it to myself except, gosh, these are really interesting drawings. And it's the way I love to draw, you know, to draw with a crow quill pen, which is a very, very fine point, and India ink. These were done in 1969, which means 40 years ago. And I had done, all in all, there were about 150 or 60 of these. And they were in notebooks. And what happened with this is that I was told I had to go down to the basement because they were cleaning out the basement. And I had several boxes that I had from years and years ago. And the boxes essentially held a lot of old junk that I never even thought about. I didn't remember these at all. And I suddenly started coming across these and we all started pulling them out, and I realized I remembered when I had done them at that point, and there were a lot of them. So I'm showing you this first batch because these were the water stained ones. These were all stained by water. This was 1969. I had 4 kids with the only place I had, you know, for sanctuary, and if you talk to anyone that's got children, the sanctuary is a bathtub. Get into the bathtub and you're safe. So I would say I would go up, take a bath, and they all know this is going to be a 2-3 hour bath, which I always did. And I brought in India ink and crow quill pen and a pad, and I just sit there in front of a full-length mirror and just do these drawings, and for a good number of weeks. And you know, for me, drawing is like instant copy. You know, it's very swift and very easy, so that doing these was sort of very swift and very easy. And everyone says, well, what were you thinking at the time? I wasn't thinking anything, except that I'm an artist, and it was a very quiet time, and I had drawing paper there, and I just drew and drew and drew. It was done without reference, you know, it was a world where everything was falling apart. The whole world was on fire at that point anyways, you know, it was the activism and feminism and the, you know, the Vietnam War. It was like so much going on in the world. That was pretty much what preoccupied me. Plus, I had just moved to San Diego. I hadn't even been there a year, and I hated San Diego, so I was very low. And I don't know. I mean, we can do some wonderful analytical, you know, interpretations of them, but actually, that's just exactly what happened.
To what extent are these basically reproductions of this suite of drawings from upstairs from '69?
Well, what happens is that I will scan into the computer the drawings. When I scan the drawing, because usually there's just one of each. They're not duplicates. Once I scan it in, I make the decision what I want to do with it. Sometimes I'll blot out the image totally. I will go back into it with my hand. I will add pigment to it. It's just, each one is totally different.
All of this is digitally reproduced?
Digitally reproduced, but hand worked afterwards. It took me a period of time to sort of absorb what I had there because the material was so rich and so interesting for me. It was like looking at something for the very first time. So I started to take the original drawings, I left them just the way they were, and I started to make, I would scan the drawings because I've been working with computers, and then I started to use these pieces as drawings, I'm sorry, not drawings actually, like shingles. You put shingles on a house, and it was very prim and very pristine. You know, it felt like Japanese, and the ladders sort of lent itself to being there. It was a kind of construction or structure that it just seemed right. This is the Mona Lisa figure, and she comes actually from what I had started with a number of years back, about 2001 or 2. I had I was unable to really get around much, so I sat at a table and I made little figures out of modeling clay. And then at one point I decided that I would take these little figures and photograph them on a little tiny stage and lit them and photograph them in such a way that it didn't really matter. They were like found objects. People look at it, and then of course, it's click, 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 this connects, that connects, this connects, and where does she connect in it? I'm not there to connect the dots. I'm not there to tell you where the comma should be going. It's just what I do, and this is what happens.